Welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County Mayor, and we are so glad you're with us today. We have a new employee, new guest, Alabama fan, so you Tennessee Vanderbilt fans that are watching today. He's actually born not too far outside the stadium there.
That's right.
Travis Parker. Travis has been with us a very short period of time, but he's our new external affairs officer under the emergency management. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Let's talk a little bit about Travis Parker, who you are and how you wound up in this particular role and some of the history. The good thing about having a show with me, I don't always have someone that has a full head of hair like you do. And so I welcome you to this ranks. I know you're at least past 21.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
Talk
am.
to me a little bit who you are, where you came from, and how you wound up here in Williamson County.
Okay. Well, I was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, raised there, and married my sweetheart years ago. Her name's Kim Parker. And, we have relatives that live here in Middle Tennessee. We came up and visited, and we had a lot of conversation through our years together where we would like to retire one day. And we always talked about the beach area, Mobile, Alabama, places like that. But one of our always came back to has always been Nashville, the Nashville area. And so she got a job offer from Centennial Hospital downtown, and she said, I want to take this job. And so she convinced me to retire. I was working with the fire department in Tuscaloosa. I had been there 27 years. And we talked about it. We looked over our finances. We looked at our retirement plan for both her when she worked at the hospital in Tuscaloosa and mine with the fire department. And I said, I think we can do this. So I retired, and we moved up here. She kept the job for about a year, and she said, I don't really want to do this anymore. So then I started, well, what are we going to do? And so she looked around, and she said, I'm going to be a school nurse. And so she took a job at Trinity Elementary here with Williamson County. And I said, well, I'm ready to go back. I've been off for about 8 months. And I said, I'm about ready to go back to work too. And so I started looking around, and I said, well, you're working in Williamson County. I said, I'll see if I've got something maybe in Williamson County for me. And so I started looking around in Williamson County's HR website, and I saw this one that said External Affairs Officer. And I said, that looks like almost the exact same thing I was doing in Tuscaloosa. So I applied for it, came in, did several interviews, and
Here you are.
Here I am.
I understand y'all have 3 children. And
Yes,
you have one young man still playing football, living at home.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've got. We have 3 kids. We've got my oldest daughter is still in Tuscaloosa. She actually works for the University of Alabama. She's a dispatcher for the University of Alabama Police Department. My middle child, is a nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital in Birmingham. And then I've got my son Benjamin. He's a freshman at Ravenwood High School.
Oh, good. Well, we welcome you to our community.
Thank you.
Let's jump into kind of the job. First of all, what in the world's an external affairs officer? Fancy title. What's your job?
Well, the external affairs officer, a lot of people know what an internal affairs officer, that's basically handling inside the department. This basically goes outside the department. Main part of the job is the public information officer. I'll be handling the media. I'll be handling the other agencies that deal daily with emergency management, and do a lot of public education, a lot of school education and things like that. So basically, agencies that deal with emergency management will basically be part of my job. And this is also another part of that is that's basically what I did in Tuscaloosa. I was the EMS division chief for the fire department for the last 11 years, and under my umbrella was public information and public education.
When you speak about Alabama and your tenure that you were working down there several years ago, that had a terrible tornado.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. March 27, 2011 was a horrific day. We have tornadoes all the time in Alabama, especially in the Tuscaloosa area. For some reason, that's just basically a tornado alley area right in there. And we had this one particular day, and I think the part of the reason we didn't have more deaths, well, I think we wound up with like 36 deaths that day. But the reason we didn't have more was because the meteorologists on TV were, well respected, and when they said, "This one's coming, this is not one that we can play with," a lot of people took that seriously. One of the big areas that was hit was a Chuck E. Cheese, and that Chuck E. Cheese pizza area, there were 2 birthday parties going on that had over 60 kids in that pizza restaurant. And the manager took it seriously and said, "We're closing." And so he closed about 2 hours before the tornado hit, and that building was completely destroyed. And so there would have been several children died in that building had they not taken it seriously. But it came through. It took about an 8-mile path right through the middle of town. Missed the University of Alabama by about a quarter of a mile. Missed the major medical center by half a mile. Took out our communications, took out our emergency management area, took that building completely out, and they had several people in there. Also took out Red Cross, and so all of our communications was down. So we were basically in a very, very dire situation. A lot of hours after that. We worked probably between 14 and 18 hours a day for the next 3 weeks, just trying to get our city back, the infrastructure back into shape.
Looking, and so many of our lessons we learn in life, we have to go through experiences, both good and bad. That's just the nature of the beast that we are.
Yes, sir.
And you look at a particular day in the life of what occurred. I'm sure you've got vivid memories here about a year ahead of that. And I remember that distinctly in 2010 when we had a major flood.
Mm-hmm.
So a year after that, and we learned valuable lessons. We did an awful lot of good things, but there were a lot of areas for improvement.
Yeah.
And we didn't spend all of our time and energies reflecting on just all the good or just all the bad, but we had a lot of tabletop exercises where we tried to concentrate and work through those issues that we knew we needed improvements in. I'm sure that was the case down there.
Well, I will say it was handled very well. Now, was it handled perfectly? No. There was things that we could have done differently, we should have done differently. But you're right. It was something that we decided we needed to come in after it was over and make this a learning process. The strange thing about this was about a year before this tornado hit, the mayor of Tuscaloosa took about 40 people to Emmitsburg, Maryland, the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And they basically did several scenarios, but one of them was a major tornado coming through. And I remember several of the department heads from Tuscaloosa saying, "That'll never happen, that'll never happen." Taking out the communications, that'll never happen. But, guess what? Less than a year later, it actually happened. And I think that made us better. The preparation of that actually made us more prepared to handle that major tornado. Afterwards, we started looking at the incident command system, which is what the federal government wants everyone to be under. And they said, "Hey, we see now how it works. This is how it really works." So,
and you might explain, Travis, if I can, what is the incident command center? Because many people watching the show would not know that.
Yeah, well, the incident command system basically takes everyday government and basically puts them almost like in a military style. Has an incident commander, and then under that incident commander, you have 6 or 7 different branches that branch off of it, and everybody. But you don't try to run everything. You have people under you, just like in government, where you have department heads that run under it. This is basically the same thing. You have an incident commander. He has branches under him, and then under those branches, they have sub-branches, and it just basically makes everything easier to run.
When you mention things like that, of course, again, I'll bring up the age factor. I'm old enough to remember as a young boy growing up, we had civil defense.
Yes, sir.
that we were all, it was coming out of the Cold War. It was coming out of the late 50s and Khrushchev and Eisenhower and certainly the United States and Russia and several other large countries with strong military power.
Right.
And there was a constant battle that the United States was going to be bombed or overtaken by Russia and vice versa. So you had, in fact, most people don't realize the interstate system was actually a military exercise, and to build the highways so that we could get from the east to west, north and south. We call that news.
Yeah.
But it was done for the military. It was for preparation. When you fast forward, even in our launches in the late 50s and the 60s during the Kennedy administration to get into outer space and some of the landing on the moon and the things that I went through during that period of time was all about military superiority.
That's exactly right.
And we've all learned from that. And when I hear these this new vernacular of terms, it does remind me of those period of time where we weren't as advanced in our technology, and each family, each school, each church, each hospital was kind of responsible for its own community, but you had this national leadership that gave you the sound bites and the right way to do things.
Right.
If I could bring that forward to what happened in your community in Tuscaloosa in 2011, that really focused. We were here in Williamson County. We had about 50 people that assimilated under a task force for nearly 2 years, meeting on a month to 2 month basis, having city, having county, having our law enforcement, our fire, our TEMA, our FEMA, all of these men and women meeting, trying to offer a better security, public safety environment for Williamson County. And out of your unfortunate circumstances down in Tuscaloosa, and out of the other events that happened in different parts of the United States where tornadoes and even hurricanes and misfortunes such as we had with the floods pushed us a little bit deeper into true public safety here in the unincorporated area, working and relying on our city partners too.
Right.
In fact, out of that came, and it's under construction now, a hardened building that will withstand up to 200-mile-an-hour winds.
That's exactly right. Well, you know, it's amazing how we have progressed through the years. I remember the civil defense days as well, and you go back to those days and you think about the fears of getting attacked from the south from Cuba and all the other fears
Bay
that
of
we
the
had.
Pigs.
That's right, the Bay of Pigs and all the other things that you always were concerned about. Then as that fear kind of died down, then all of a sudden we had 9/11, and then another fear progressed from that, and then weather concerns and more terrorist concerns. And I think EMA, emergency management, has progressed from civil defense to the point where it is almost, and I'm not going to say it's a science, but it's almost a science where, and I'm going to say something, our staff in emergency management here, Mac Purdy and all the folks down there in emergency management, they're professionals. They know what to do. They know when to do it. When they open that emergency operations center, like we did the other night when the storms came through, you know, we're like parents. We look at possibilities, not probabilities. You know, probably nothing's going to happen, but what if it does? You know, we don't want to be at home in bed and have to come out here. We want to be prepared in case something does happen. I think emergency management has progressed to a point where now it doesn't matter if it's a natural act, if it's a man-made act, if it's a terrorist act. They're prepared to move in case something does happen.
When you think about the job and the role that you're playing, and now would be a great time to introduce your website or a phone number, because there are going to be church groups, school groups that will want to contact you and have that conversation with you. And so if you would relay that on.
Yes, sir. Well, my direct line and any requests for coming out and talking to the public, doing classes with schools, church groups, any other groups that want emergency management to come out and do a talk for them or do a class for them. My number is area code 615-224-6090. And we're on the website. We're under Williamson County's website. If they go into the website and come down to the departments, they can see emergency management, and they can send us a direct line through the website or call me direct.
And so when you go out to school, what are you going to be teaching our children?
Well, it's different things. We incorporate a lot of stuff under emergency management. We go as far as, we're not in a horrible earthquake zone right here, but this month is earthquake awareness, and so we want to make sure that everybody, stays safe. If they start feeling the earth shake, stop, drop, and roll for fire. With this one, you stop and you get up under something heavy and you kind of stay there until it stops shaking. You think, well, let's run outside, but you know what? Outside could be very dangerous with gas leaks and other things that could, be dangerous for you. So we just tell people to get under something heavy, like a desk or something, and stay there until the shaking stops. It's also Fire Prevention Month, so we have to start looking at fire safety, for our citizens in Williamson County. And so there's a lot of things going on. We can do all kinds of training. We have some folks down there that right now they're doing a class on GPS and land management. So
you have to tell people what GPS is.
Well, the GPS
you're not allowed to use
that's
initials.
Right, no initials. I forget about that. But global positioning is basically if they go out and they're trying to find someone in the woods or something, if they have someone missing, they go out there and they can use their compasses and stuff to kind of know where they've searched, where they haven't searched. If they know a particular area where this person may have been, they can put it in their global positioning system and actually try to go out there and find that person.
It's interesting to me as you talk about the different things that you'll be talking to school groups and church groups and the Lions Club and the Rotary clubs. Yes, and things like that. I started to say Noon Rotary because that's one I'm a member of. But there are many Rotary clubs in this county. So all of you Rotarians out there, I apologize for throwing the word noon in, but that's where the one I attend. That when you're talking about children, it's so important to educate our young people on what to do in the event of you made the comment under fire, what to do, and because the more education it gets them familiar with it, having a path, having something to do rather than it just happening and not knowing what to do.
Right.
So being prepared, the Boy Scout, the Girl Scout motto still has application for our children today, and I don't think you can educate them enough. Now, our teachers do a wonderful job with their classrooms.
They do.
But when someone from the outside comes in, when someone explains, and this is what you have to do, you oftentimes, I know with my grandchildren, I look at them and think, I don't think they're getting it. Yeah. I don't think they're grasping it. But surprisingly, they do.
Well, I kind of compare that to my son. I was his coach for a lot of years with him growing up. I coached him in basketball. I helped coach in baseball. And he listened to me until he got to a certain age, and then after a while, Daddy doesn't know him as much. And so I said, it's time for me to turn you over. And it's the same way with teachers.
Anybody has kids has gone through that.
That's right. And the teachers are the same way. The teachers talk to them all year long. And I think they get a little bit of a shell developed there. But you're right. If a firefighter comes in or if someone from EMA comes in and starts saying, hey, this is what you need to do if your house catches on fire, this is what you need to do. And guess what? Children can teach the parents in a lot of cases. We've had a lot of situations where the kids would come up and they'd say, hey, Mom, they told me that we need to do this. And the parents say, oh, that's probably right. And so
when you're doing your job, Travis, and it's a little bit off the subject of what we really wanted to cover, but it is part of your role, that in the state of Tennessee, and I suspect it's very common also in Alabama where you'd worked for over 2 decades, there's a distinct role between a municipal or city firefighter as opposed to the unincorporated area of most communities, which are run by our volunteer men and women in our communities, and we have several of those here in Williamson County. As a general rule, the men and women that wear the uniform inside the municipalities are paid 24/7, 365. Whereas out in the unincorporated area, they are handled by men and women who are not paid.
Right.
A little conversation on that.
Well, I was, of course, a municipal firefighter in Tuscaloosa for 27 years. And we covered the entire county, so we dealt with the volunteer firefighters out in the county. And, there's good things for both. First of all, the paid firefighter, the one in the municipality, they're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're in the station, they're with their equipment, ready to respond immediately. That's a big advantage. The big advantage with the firefighter is this is their community. This is where they live. This is their families and their friends and their relatives in their community that they're helping protect. They're there, if you can compare it to the Revolutionary War. The British soldiers were there because they were being paid. They were coming into an unknown area to be, but the Americans in there that was their home, and they were being, they were coming in and they were fighting for land and for their families. So, there's advantage to both. The volunteers, they have to train at their convenience. They can't, leave their work because they still have to support their families. So their training time is limited a little bit more, where the ones at the fire stations in the municipalities, they can pretty much go as they want to on duty. But so I think there's advantage to both, but I think when you really look down at it, I think they're both professionals and they're both.
And when you read, and when you look at and you read some of the data all throughout particularly the 48 continental states, there's as many volunteer men and women or organizations as they are the professional.
That's right.
And they're both professional, but I'll use the term paid.
Yes.
Because many of the men and women that work in the cities live in the county, live in the unincorporated area, and that's a volunteer job for them.
That's right.
As you said, they're there to protect their family. Right. I also see, and this is part of the role that the EMA, the Emergency Management Agency, we have to figure out those solutions here in Williamson County, that how we can all share, work together, because we do have different tax bases.
That's right.
We do have different missions.
That's right.
And we've got to work through those things such as automatic aid and so many other different things, whereas the county, Williamson County government, does provide a vast majority of equipment that goes into the volunteer areas.
Right.
And oftentimes their buildings and the improvements to those buildings. And a lot of people watching this would think, well, why not just get into the volunteer, go into all of your unincorporated area and make those paid people. It's all because of dollars and cents.
That's right. It would be very expensive to try to go out there and try to incorporate all those volunteer fire departments. There's a lot of departments throughout Williamson County that are not for pay. I mean, they volunteer their time, they volunteer their all their resources. A lot of them pay for their own stuff. They have to buy their own some of their own equipment and stuff. So, they are professionals. They may not be paid, but I have to say they're professionals. And I'll tell you this: Mac Purdy, Jay Bonson, Jonathan Presnell, Kate Brock, all of those do a great job of that cohesion that they need between the volunteers and the paid services. I've seen a lot of situations where right now in that global positioning class I was telling you about, there are paid firefighters in there and there are volunteers in there, and they're working great together. So it's not. I don't think there's any bitterness. I think what it is hey, you got your job in Franklin or in Brentwood. I've got my job in Nolensville or in Fairview or.
Well, another one, we've got about 3.5 minutes left, but most everyone realizes a few weeks back, a couple of months ago, we had a horrific accident on the interstate at Paytonsville, where Paytonsville Road crosses over I-65 south and north. And ultimately, a life was lost. Ultimately, though, on the infrastructure side, not one bridge, but both bridges had to be removed, which isolated our community on the eastern part of I-65. If you lived in one of our communities out there, and one of them that comes to mind, real close to the Ag Center, is a community called Ladd Park.
Right.
Well, Ladd Park, for the most part, was being serviced by, it's inside the city limits of Franklin, and it's being serviced by the fire station that would be coming from the McCatcher and Highway 96 area. Well, that has an ISO, Insurance Services Office rating. Most insurance companies use how many miles you are from the fire station, how far are you from the fire hydrant, and the accessibility of that. When the bridge was removed, the accessibility became an issue.
That's right. And EMA again stepped in, moved equipment and resources, and got personnel available to actually respond out of the Ag Center. And so it actually made it a lot better for those people in that area.
Absolutely.
It actually probably increased their ISO rating there.
Well, it's on a temporary basis. Now, we're already from a standpoint now that I get those phone calls, are you going to leave them there? Are they going to be able to be maintained there? Because they do want that increased protection. And then you throw in the element, too, the ambulances that the Williamson Medical Center oversees for our community. But it was a very difficult transition. But my point was going here is, yes, we solved it. You solved it. Mac solved it. Bill Jorgensen solved it. The city solved it by putting stationed fire equipment, men, women, out in the Ag Center on a temporary basis, shored up some areas so you can get in and out better, improved the visibility, but also improved the fire protection and life-saving techniques, but it all came from an agency that said, we have to do this. Yeah. We have to work together as cities and counties to find solutions without regard, but in the forefront, realizing you've got a budget. You got to live within the budget.
Right. You got to live within there. Yeah, that's right. And I think for the most part, I think what you see is these companies and these governments and municipalities look at what's best for the citizens.
Yes, they do.
Let's leave our personalities out. Let's leave our egos out. What's best for the citizens?
45 seconds. What overlook did you want to mention?
Well, I think that's the key. Is we want to do what's best for the citizens of Williamson County. When we come in here, we want to do a job, and it doesn't matter if I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, if I'm an Alabama fan, or if I'm a Tennessee fan, or a Vanderbilt fan. What's best?
So there is no truth. You'd come quicker if you were an Alabama fan.
No, no, I won't. That won't be one of our questions our operators ask. But if what's best for the citizens of Williamson County, that's what we want in emergency management, and I think that's what's best for the government to ask.
Travis Parker is a new employee, full of a lot of enthusiasm, part of our community, cares for you. Wants to work with you. Call him at his number. Go to the website, pull it up. Travis, we thank you for being with us today. Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Look forward to working with you as the time goes on. Thanks. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County's mayor. We'll finish this show and we'll see you around. Have a good day.
What should I make my password? Oh, I know. I'll make my password password. Passwords should be unique, private, non-personal, and secure. Use more than one word. Use different character classes, use symbols and numbers, and use multiple passwords for different sites. And always remember never to share your passwords.